I had never played the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion before, until the surprise Oblivion Remaster Shadow Drop, which was one of the worst kept secrets in the entire gaming industry. And probably like most people who had never played the original before, I was super excited for the remaster to experience this classic open world RPG title for the first time, which took the industry by storm when it was released in 2006. However, after 40 hours of playing the Oblivion Remaster, my experience with the game was definitely interesting.
Charge the courtyard! Leave none of them standing!
What do you mean? They're all dead? Everyone is dead. Now, I know this is a Bethesda title we're talking about here, and yes, it's a remaster of a game that was released in 2006, so I was expecting some jankiness. But that's not why my experience was interesting. From first booting up the game, I had goosebumps all over my body, and it's very rare that a game does this to me, but I think it was because I was craving another open world RPG title from Bethesda for a long time now, and that this remaster was exactly what I needed. You see, my first experience with a Bethesda Game Studios title was with Fallout 3 on the Xbox 360, which I played way back in 2008. The only reason why I decided to pick up Fallout 3 back then was because of the version of the game I saw being sold in my local game store was the limited collector's edition, which came with a figurine of a member of the Brotherhood of Steel, and young me knew I had to have it because it looked so cool. Before Fallout 3, I had no idea of the Elder Scrolls series, such as Morrowind or Oblivion, so when I played Fallout 3, it was a game that I had been desperately seeking, and it was the first of its kind that I had played. Fallout 3 became one of my favourite games of all time, and it definitely is still up there. So after Fallout 3, I played each new Bethesda release from New Vegas, Skyrim, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, and most recently Starfield, and that's pretty much my entire experience with BGS, and they have since become one of my favourite developers of all time. I did, however, try to play the original Oblivion a while back on my Steam Deck, but the controls were really funky on the Steam Deck, and I didn't make it out of the tutorial area. So I gave up and hoped to play the original one day on PC, but I never did, because there were many rumours about this Oblivion remaster, so I decided to hang fire and wait. So when I launched the remaster and was introduced to the badass main menu with the theme playing over it, I was super hyped to start my first new game. The introduction cutscene played, and then I was thrown straight into the character creator, and this is when I felt like that kid again, playing Fallout 3 for the first time. I probably sank an hour into making my character, which looked like the epiphany of John Oblivion. I mean, seriously, if John Oblivion existed, he would look exactly like this guy, even if his name is Bailey. So as John Oblivion, I began my adventure in Citadel to become the hero I was destined to become. And after 40 hours with the game, which was a mixture of me exploring, completing side quests, and finishing the main story, I can say that my overall experience with Oblivion was fun. However, there were some hiccups along the way, and I'm here to share with you my raw, honest thoughts. If you are enjoying this video so far, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we are trying to get to 30,000 subscribers, and 97% of you aren't subscribed, and I would love for you to join our fantastic community. Just before I share with you my raw, honest thoughts on the Oblivion remaster, I do wish to put another huge disclaimer out there that I have not played the original Oblivion other than probably spending about 5 minutes with it on my Steam Deck before saying that is enough, and I have only seen snippets of gameplay from the original. So this will be me as a player experiencing this game for the first time, sharing my thoughts without any in-depth knowledge about how the original looked, played, or sounded. So first things first, when it comes to the Oblivion remaster, I have to just take a moment to credit how insanely and stupidly beautiful this game looks. I've seen what the original looked like from snippets of gameplay here and there, but the graphical overhaul they decided to do with this remaster is probably one of the biggest glow-ups I have seen any game receive. I understand how special of a moment it is for first-time players of the original stepping out of the sewers for the very first time, and seeing the magnificent and lush open world, knowing you can go wherever and do whatever. But for me, playing the remaster and experiencing this moment too, it honestly was probably just as special. It gave me flashbacks to the moment you step out the vault in Fallout 3 and you see the open world knowing you can explore and do whatever you want. And I say Fallout 3 because I don't remember having this special moment in Fallout New Vegas when you step out of Doc Mitchell's home, or in Skyrim when you leave the cave. However, in the Oblivion Remaster, it was just an incredible moment because of how gorgeous the open world is. The Oblivion Remaster is powered by the Unreal Engine 5, which of course will make any game look phenomenal in today's time. Everything down to the vast amount of vegetation and foliage, to the lighting and shadows, the tiny details here and there, and the beautiful environmental effects and weather conditions. I mean, this is just to name a few of the visually impressive aspects of this remaster, and I think the most amazing principle of the graphical overhaul is that it still captures the essence and aesthetic of what the original was from the brief amount of gameplay I've seen. What the developers have done here is truly magic, so massive props to Virtuous. All the towns in Citadel that you'll come across all feel beautifully handcrafted, and they have this comforting feel about them which is really hard to describe. I mean, if you've played the game, you'll know what I'm trying to convey here, but as soon as you enter one of these towns, it sometimes feels like you're playing a completely different game. I think the best way to put it is, out in the open world, you feel some threat from what enemies you may encounter, but as soon as you enter one of these towns, you feel instantly safe and calm. Speaking of towns, we've got to talk about the inhabitants of Citadel. Yes, I have glazed about how graphically stunning the world is, but the characters also need to be discussed. From the snippets of gameplay and images I have seen of the characters from the original Oblivion, they look like lifeless human ragdolls with terrible facial expressions. And again, probably back in 2006 with the technology they had available back then, the characters looked fantastic. But for comparison's sake with the remaster, now they've made every single individual feel unique and genuine. In the original, most characters looked identical to one another because they all had this smooth look about them. But with the remaster, each character seems to be their own individual, even if the same voice actor voices 50 different characters. Their movements and general body language is very stiff and janky still, just like the original, but the conversations with them are pretty engaging due to the sheer detail of their faces and their authentic facial expressions, which constantly change during dialogue. This is once again elevated to a higher quality in the remaster with the lip sync technology they use for the characters, because when they are talking, it is pretty impressive to see how well the words sync up with their facial movements. Even with the different races like the Argonians or Khajiits, who have different facial structures, the facial expressions they are able to convey during dialogue is done exceptionally well too. Because of all this, I was engaged in each conversation I had with every single character I had come across, which usually isn't the case for me when I play open world RPGs. Speaking of which, shockingly enough, I was surprised to find out that the Emperor is voiced by the one and only Patrick Stewart, and Martin Septim is voiced by Sean Bean, which is actually crazy. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that much because Fallout 3 had Liam Neeson voice the dad of the protagonist, but it just goes to show you the level of quality Bethesda wants to add to these all-important characters in the story. After completing the main story in Oblivion, I was actually quite surprised by how interesting and fun it was, and I may have to say in certain areas I found it to be better than Skyrim's story. The story had me constantly guessing what would happen next, and the pacing of the main quest line was perfect. I think my favourite quest in the entire story would have to be where you have to save Kvatch from the invasion. In the remaster, this entire area looks stunning with torrential rain pouring down in the destroyed castle grounds, with the spectacular lighting emitting from the Oblivion Gate, highlighting the destruction the Daedra have caused. The Oblivion realms felt like something straight out of Doom Eternal. I understand that from what I have seen, most members of the Oblivion fanbase don't really like these areas in Oblivion in the original because they just weren't that interesting. But I think in the remaster, the developers have done a really good job and made them exciting to explore. Then other than the Oblivion Gates, there were many moments throughout the story where I did something in a certain way to achieve my goal, but in the moment I thought I would definitely like to replay the story again on a different character and try to do this quest with a different approach to see what sort of outcome I get by doing it that way. The length of the story too is a decent amount of time, with it clocking in around 7 to 8 hours if you focus on it from start to finish. I do much prefer games that have a story that only lasts 7 to 8 hours because I feel like with this duration it perfectly has enough time to capture the entire story, offering replayability without overstaying its welcome before becoming boring and feeling like a tedious slog. The gameplay, on the other hand, in the remaster received an overhaul too, but it still felt quite awkward and janky. Again, yes, I completely understand this is a remaster, but the combat still felt dated, which I completely accept, and at no point did it diminish any aspect of my experience. I just wish they probably tweaked it a little more so it felt slightly more modern. For example, combat with a weapon is pretty much the same 3 swings for a light attack and the same 1 swing for a heavy attack, depending on the weapon you are using. I didn't use any magic or spells other than the one that restored some of my health, so I can't really speak on that type of combat. Sprinting around in third person is a sight to behold too. I mean, who signed off on this sprinting animation and thought, hey, we'll ship this in the final product, because this definitely gets the Bailey Points award for the shittiest sprinting animation scene in a video game. The score is wonderful to listen to as you're exploring Citadel, and I think the soundtrack enforces one of my previous comments of making you feel at peace and calm during certain moments of the game. BGS have always had incredible scores in their titles, but there's something so wonderfully special about the soundtrack in Oblivion that puts you at rest in certain areas of the world where it truly immerses you into the playing experience. It truly adds to the joy of playing Oblivion. Besides the graphics, story, gameplay, and score, there was one fundamental aspect of the remaster that negatively impacted my playing experience. And that was, of course, the performance. I played on PC and just like everyone else had no issues during the introduction, but as soon as you exit the sewers and enter the open world, that's when the performance starts to tank massively. I was still able to play the game at high quality and get well over 60 FPS in every area, but it did indeed take a ridiculous amount of time for me to find the best settings to play Oblivion at this quality without sacrificing performance. This isn't just a PC issue either. Every platform, whether it be PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, is suffering from the atrocious optimization of this remaster. Some people out there who have got some of the best PC builds are unable to play this remaster because of how bad the optimization is. Even if you do somehow get it running at a smooth FPS at a decent quality, each platform is suffering from micro stutters, which tanks the FPS for a second before it shoots back up, which again impacts the playing experience. The micro stutter can be quite jolting, whether you are exploring or in the moment of combat. Yes, I did experience the famous BGS bugs, which is fine when playing Oblivion, and most of them gave me a chuckle, but the terrible optimization was what really disrupted my experience. I could have waited for this issue to be patched and then played Oblivion, so I wouldn't have had to experience this, but I was just too excited to jump into this game, just like everyone else. Eventually I was able to overlook the micro stutters, but it's been there so far throughout my entire 40 hours of playing. However, I am hoping that the developers have listened to this feedback that they are getting from pretty much everyone and sort out the optimization as soon as possible, because it is massively deteriorating the quality of this product, and this Oblivion Remaster deserves better. There are plenty of people who have purchased this game but have stopped playing because they can't handle the performance issues, and this remaster really does deserve to be better. Most developers nowadays rely heavily on frame generation or DLSS to improve the performance of their titles, along with the days of good optimization of games such as Red Dead Redemption 2. However, I will save my thoughts on that topic for another day. Overall, with the performance issues aside, the Oblivion Remaster is a faithful remaster of the original, which accommodates to both new and returning players. The essence and ambience of Oblivion is still very much present in the remaster, which I can fully appreciate and respect. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with Oblivion Remaster and will be continuing to play it, with possibly starting up a second playthrough soon. I may also go back and play the original just to see for myself the amount of top-notch improvements they have made. I should also give some credit and respect to Bethesda's name too for releasing a remaster of an older title for a reasonable price of $50, which includes all of the DLC packs. Yes, I am looking at you, Nintendo. The game also probably needed more time to iron out some of the performance issues, but nevertheless, the developers have actively been listening to feedback and are making improvements based on what they hear from the community. So hopefully sooner rather than later, the optimization is resolved, so we can all experience this game the way it was intended to be played. I also think that the Oblivion Remaster should have been called a remake with the amount of changes they made to the original. Here's hoping that this Oblivion Remaster is successful enough that Bethesda decides to go ahead and remaster Fallout 3 at some point, because that is the one I am truly waiting for. So what was your experience like with the game? If it was your first time playing, or if you're revisiting it, what are your thoughts? What do you like or dislike? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'd really like to hear your thoughts. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like. Also, if you do enjoy content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button and click on the bell icon to turn on notifications so you don't miss my next upload. With that being said, I want to give a special shout out to my YouTube members and Patreon supporters. Cyberboy, Camino VT, Salvi, George Kent, Luke AV, BPG, Veggie Hot Dog, Whaley, Stamshaw, Storm Mage, Sue Halep, Cheesy Chicken Gran, Rachel Vincent, Joshua Wright, Toxic Gamer 23, Forest Till I Die, Slack K Gaming, and Kat Smith. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.